You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. And we're off and running. Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to another third year bonus of the podcast Me and Paranormal You, the Mindcast, as I've been calling it for nearly a decade. Mindcast really hasn't caught on, I think, and, it hasn't really entered the general, the zeitgeist, the vernacular of the mainstream. Nonetheless, it's been a minute since I've done a third year bonus. I appreciate everybody who's been hitting me up and letting me know that they've been enjoying the interviews. I've been enjoying conducting these interviews as always. And there are more interviews coming up that I think are going to be great. I've got lots of updates. I mean, it is seemingly very difficult to keep up with the breaking news in the world of the paranormal recently, especially regarding UFOs, UAPs. As you know, I'm not a UAPologist. I'm a ufologist. I don't know. And then, not to mention NBOs, non-biological organics, or non-biologic or organics, or whatever we want to call clones, robots, alien clones, alien robots. Okay, I'm like taking a deep breath. A lot of my friends who aren't into this stuff as much as I am, or as much as you are, and even to levels where people are like even deeper. There are people that are much deeper into this than me, just because I've got other things I have to be devoting my time to as well. I'd love to just be like, if I won the Powerball, who knows what I would do? I'd probably be really good at golf, because that's seemingly that's what rich people do. That's what my friends who have gotten famous and rich, they all seem to really like golf now. So I'd probably just be, I'd buy a bunch of property, I'd put with a mansion or a compound, and I would just have like researchers and experimenters and parapsychologists and things like that living there full time. I would, I'd have my own, Noetic Institute of Sciences, or, I'd have my own Monroe Institute. We would get into the bottom of it out there. You know what I mean? But alas, I have not won the Powerball or the Mega Millions. So here we are, scraping by. Anyway, no, I've been on the road for, a month, 6 weeks at this point, I think, is the rough estimate. And, I'm doing great. I'm loving it. I'm loving being on the float. I'm trying to post some photos to my Instagram so you can kind of see some of the places I'm traveling, some of the people I'm seeing. Had some really fun paranormal investigations in some new locations. Great conversations, met new friends, met some great people at comedy shows, and also some woo-woo weekends that I've had. By the time this comes out, I will be I'll be in Lebanon, Tennessee, doing Hot Alien Summer Camp this Friday night with Karen Montowski. That's going to be bonkers. It's going to be really fun. So, not too late. You can go to my website, ryanserencomedy.com/tour, and you can, there's a ticket link there. Or just find a Hot Alien Summer Camp on Instagram, and you can find info there. That's going to be a really, really fun show. It's always fun when Rontowski and I get to, play on stage together and do things like that. So I'm really excited about that. It's been too long since I've seen Karen. She's been out of LA for a minute. I'm out of LA currently, on the road floating. So here we go. Okay, so a lot has happened. I was just back in Florida, staying the night at my friend Bill and Carolyn's. The place where it, the scariest thing that's ever happened to me on a paranormal investigation has ever happened to me was there. Went back for the second time since the incident. I can fill you in on that shortly, and patrons are actually going to get a little more in depth on that stuff as well. So you can go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Ryan Singer, And I'll be giving you even more like detailed descriptions of some of the stuff that went there. It doesn't need to be public, like out in public, like broadcast in a major way. That's why, because there's some personal things, I guess. Anyway, there's a lot going on in the world of the paranormal. Specifically, like I said, this hearing that happened. When did the hearing happen? When did the hearing happen? Is that what my grammar? Is that where my grammar is at now? I put all my belongings in a storage unit so I can live on the float for a while, and my grammar goes to hell. Did I put all of the rules of the English language and how one should speak properly into that storage unit as well? Roughly, it was the last week of July was the hearing, was the UFO hearing. It was an open hearing where former military intelligence officer turned whistleblower David Grush was there. Grush was also on the News Nation interview that happened roughly 5-6 weeks earlier. The date on that exactly was oh God, why am I'm spacing on this. The press club event went up on Monday, June 12th. The hearing was the last week of July. So we're looking at 7 weeks roughly, right? From the time that the National Press Club event organized by Dr. Greer and the Disclosure Project happened, and the open hearing on the Senate floor on UFOs. The day before, June 11th, on Sunday, June 11th, there was, or it may have been Saturday, and then the press club was on a Sunday. I can't remember exactly, but it says Monday, June 12th. I think they put this up the next day. Or no, it was live. Anyway, the point is, Monday, June 12th is what started this, I believe. I am speculating, I am putting the pieces together, but here's what happens. Dr. Greer has all of these whistleblowers. It's a train of whistleblowers giving testimony during this National Press Club event. Free to watch, still on YouTube. I'll link it. You should check it out. So then, oh my God, I just happened to bring up the YouTube link just now. The comments by people like, Dr. Greer, why are you silent regarding these hearings with Grush? It's like, shut up. He's not. It's YouTube comments. I swear. Anyway, so, let's go from June 12th, fast forward to, June 26th, 27th, whatever day that was, where the hearing was in Congress. It's not a coincidence that it happened quickly, yet also kind of feels like it might have took a little longer than we maybe have anticipated. All of the whistleblowers that Dr. Greer had speak at the National Press Club event were pretty much sticking to a script to a certain degree if you watched it. And I think it's important to understand why that script was stuck to, or seemingly, at least when it came to key points, there was an emphasis on kind of sticking to the script and what it was planned to be said publicly. Now, some of these guys, I don't know if they've ever spoken publicly, if they've ever spoken, Jesus Lord, Odin and Valhalla, if they've ever spoken publicly, at least not in such a public, dramatic way, about their experiences and about what they're whistleblowing about with the UFOs and, technology, aliens, etc. Now, they all had given sworn affidavits turned in before they spoke at this press club event, which is important to understand, so they're sticking to the script of what their sworn statements are. These sworn statements were turned in to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Basically, Dr. Greer and the Disclosure Project organized all these whistleblowers, and they said, oh, remember that 7-page UFO report you gave us a couple years ago? God, has it been like that long already? that was garbage. We wiped our tushes with it. And so they turn in all of the press club event was phenomenal. It was astounding. It was emotional. It was moving. It was stirring, shocking. Former military, former Raytheon contractor talking about what's going on at the South Pole. Fascinating stuff. Cut to 6-7 weeks later, there's a hearing. Why? Because all of these sworn statements were processed. They were read. People wrapped their brains around what was happening in these statements. Cut to this public hearing, because like I said, the press club event was June 12th. Grush's interview aired on News Nation June 11th. Quite possibly the most astounding 24-ish hour period in disclosure history. Yet no one was discussing it. Why? Because Trump's indictment was unsealed, and that was the lead. That was the story that bleeds, right? Because whether it's people who love Trump or people who despise Trump, that's the story that everybody was interested in. Is he going to be guilty? Is he going to be innocent, right? So that story is everywhere, on every news station, on every website. And you have to scroll down to the very bottom and you might see some of this UFO. You wouldn't really see any of the UFO stuff, really, unless you really were looking for it. You had to really find it. I'm talking about references to Grush's interview, and I'm also talking about the press club event. Now, the press club event, the National Press Club's in Washington, D.C. Why was it not bigger news? Well, because the indictment was unsealed. Now, I'm not saying that that's not a historically a big deal, I suppose, right? That a former U.S. president had their indictment unsealed and, whatever. But is it big news in comparison to the biggest, the largest compilation of eyewitness testimony from ex-military and government workers talking about UFOs and aliens being real, and having seen them and knowing for a fact that this is real, and we are not being told even the tip of the iceberg about this stuff? Not to mention what we are doing with the technology we've recovered over the years through crashes. And people always, and this was interesting, during the hearing, which followed in late July, there was a question like, well, if they can travel through space and time, why are they? You don't think they're going to crash? And there was actually a pretty good answer. I think it was Grush, who, I forget what the word is. It's like, well, things break. Things don't always work. There's a failure rate, a sorties, or I can't remember what he said. I never was in the military or aviation or anything like that. So, but things don't always work the way they're supposed to, and that's just part of life. There are things beyond our control that happen all the time that make things that should work not work. So I thought that was a great answer. The way he answered was much more technical and scientific than I'm giving you right now, but I think you get the gist. But yeah, so we had quite possibly the biggest moment, the biggest 24 hours in disclosure history. And, I've got a text thread we call the Triangle Table with my buddies Daniel Noah, who's been on the show, and Jim Perry. And we've done a couple Triangle Table episodes for, I think, the bonus content for Euphomet maybe, or I don't know if we've ever done one on here. I can't believe it. If we haven't, I'll have to try to do that. But anyway, so we're always, texting each other stuff about UFOs and, creatures and, paranormal stuff. Oh, did you see this? Oh my God, did you see this? Or, oh, look what I found. Daniel actually sent me this video that was uploaded to YouTube, I don't know, a decade ago, about from a military base where a guy was, soldier was talking about his abduction and describing 3 different types of aliens. I'll try to link that as well. Someone had posted it on Twitter. found it, and then they posted on Twitter recently, I believe, and Daniel stumbled upon it. Anyway, it's pretty interesting because there's actually a reference potentially to the dog man being a clone typed creature, a non-biological organism, I guess we could call them, or entity or whatever, NBOs. So the point is, this is all coming at us really hard and really fast right now, and not nearly as hard and fast as I think many of us want it to. But I have to remember, and I was having a conversation at dinner tonight with some people who, obviously find this stuff interesting, but they have different perspectives. They don't live in this world at all. And it's all a lot. And to wrap their brain around, I mean, we have to have a whole different paradigm. It's a paradigm shift. It's a whole different way of thinking about the universe, our existence, and the world around us. What's important, what's not important, what are we spending all of our time and energy fussing about, and do we realize that it's much, much bigger than us? And I think that's one of the things, right? Whenever we're caught up in a self-cycle spin-out, or a self-spin-out cycle, it's because we're trapped inside of our own thoughts, and the universe has now become us and everything that is directly around us. And we forget that the world is, in fact, existence, perception is, in fact, so much bigger than things I can reach out and touch. And we forget that. I forget that constantly. I get caught up in my own, spin out cycle. But then we have these moments where, luckily, through other people's perspective, through other people like reaching out and being like, hey man, shake out of it. And we zoom out. We get to zoom out into our chair in the Milky Way galaxy, and we get to look down and we see how tiny and how meaningless all of this is in a beautiful way. And it's refreshing. And it helps us have perspective. You hear in similar aspects, it's been described to me. I've never done this yet. I do want to explore this. But when it comes to ketamine treatment, I've heard one of the great effects of ketamine treatment is it's almost it's a very temporary, almost disassociation from oneself, to where you can you're sitting outside of yourself and you're seeing all the things that trouble you or bother you, or that you're obsessed about, or that freak you out or give you anxiety or cause you depression. And you get to see them from almost as if you're from another person, and maybe even with a little more wisdom, and being like, oh, see, this is consuming you, but from over here we can see that it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be that big of a thing. You shouldn't be letting it, destroy you, consume you, become obsessed about it, etc. And so anyway, other people's perspectives and hearing fresh ideas can often do that for me, where I realize, oh, I'm so down the rabbit hole on some of this paranormal stuff, and trying to stay up to date as best I can with the latest breaking news and information. I've got my buddy Pam always hitting me up with, videos. Did you hear about the Peruvian aliens? And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm driving right now. There's a whole nother thing now. There's armed aliens attacking people in Peru. And then it's like, no, it's drug dealers, dressing up in costumes, trying to scare people. And it's just like, okay, the information is coming at you from every direction. And it's wild times. And I think it's wild times in a good way. And we're going to expound more on why the wild times are worthy of being good in our mind right now. So let's my tongue is in a pretzel right now. So let's take a quick break for some sponsors, some commercials, and just as a reminder, patrons, you can hear all of these commercial free over at patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month gets you ad-free 30-year bonuses, ad-free experiences, all that good stuff. So after this commercial break, we'll be right back talking about the wild, wild west. And we're back. And we're talking about why I think all of this influx and seemingly at times overwhelming amounts of disclosure information and paranormal news that seemingly is breaking 24/7 nowadays is a good thing. Because it is breaking down, it is helping weather away old barriers between reality and hidden truth. And what I mean by that is I believe that there have been barriers to hide the truthful reality of our existence. And I don't think all of these barriers are constructed by a cabal or an evil group of powerful people wanting to keep us cut off from our true potential and power. I think some of these barriers to the hidden truth of our reality, and therefore creating almost as if it's a giant lens, so we are seeing a reality that's not the full truth, right? As opposed to the whole truth. We're seeing partial truth of the reality of our existence. I think it was, part of it. Maybe it was it's evolution. It's biological. It's survival. It is. You can't worry about self-actualization when you don't have a place to live. You don't understand building structures in an elaborate way when you are starving and you are hunting and gathering your food. You don't have time to think about, God, are we alone in the universe? And I'm certain these people still did, right? But you don't have as much time on your hands. And this was another part of a conversation that I was a part of at dinner when it comes to like Chat GPT and being incorporated in all these things, making life so much easier. And what took 5 hours now takes 1 minute. And instead of now you getting 4 hours and 59 minutes of your life to go live, to go to the beach or to the park or something like that, now you're expected to spend that 4 hours and 59 minutes that was saved by Chat GPT or whatever this stuff is to do more work, to be more proficient, to be more effective. And guess what? That is a corporation mentality. That is big business. And that's all they care about is efficiency and getting more and more production out of the worker bees. Now, we're not going to live that life, are we? That we're doing our damnedest. I will die broke on the side of the road before I live that life. But that's neither here nor there. Even though it was here, and there was a reason I started talking about it. And then by the time I got there, I totally lost the thread. But I don't think this, partial reality that has been constructed is necessarily built by people who are living in the true reality. And they're trying to keep us from it. Because I asked this question to friends of mine over the years. Would you want to be remembered as one of the top 5 stand-up comedians of all time? Or would you want self-actualization? And the answers are always interesting, and it always starts a fun conversation. The point is, if you can self-actualize, and if you can reach that, and you understand that it's real, or if you understand the true nature of the universe, meaning that humans have limitless power and psychokinetic abilities and, psychic intuition and, telekinesis, all these other things, are you caught up on just like trying to be rich and eat the best cheesecake and drink the fanciest wine? Is that what you're going to do with this knowledge? That's simple-minded, I think. And to have an awareness of something very complex and grand, it almost kind of breaks the simple-minded perspective in many ways. It's that old saying, like, once you know the truth, there's no going back. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at here. So I think survival of the human animal and the human creature has in many ways, put this lens on the reality, blocking out, the hidden truth of our reality, and specifically the mirror, looking back onto ourselves and seeing what we're capable of. And now we are slowly but surely, more and more of us are awakening to that. We are seeing it. Why? Because we are living such opulent lives, so many of us, that we have time to ponder the cosmos and the great beyond in more in-depth ways. And whether it started in Greece, the birth of philosophy, and philosophy has always been, I've always been drawn to philosophical thought and having philosophical conversations that don't necessarily have to have answers, and they don't necessarily have to end with one side or the other. There are so many sides, and I think that's the point. Just to have these conversations, to talk about things. I mean, I'd love to sit and talk with you about baseball. I love baseball, right? But I'd also love to sit and talk with you about, the nature of existence and materialism versus idealism. And yes, I might not remember all of the technical terms when it comes to breaking down certain thoughts, like ontologically and all this other stuff, right? And all the different categories of idealism or materialism. But I think as human beings, these are fun conversations that we can have with one another, pondering oneself out loud to another as a reflection, as we reflect our true nature back upon each other and to each other simultaneously while we're having those conversations, just by the nature of having them. So all of this stuff is coming in hot and heavy seemingly right now. And I think the way it feels that way is because, or I think why it feels that way is because we have been given just the drip, drip, drip for so long. And now when the faucet is turned to where it's not even turned on that, it's not even turned on that much, but it feels like the floodgates have opened. And I feel like this water is wiping away some of the dirt on that lens, exposing more of the hidden truth of our reality. Because we're reaching a point, potentially in human history, where it is needed, where it is necessary for this to happen. I am not a doomsday guy. I have been caught up. I have been wrapped around and suffocated by the umbilical cord of the doomsday baby before in my life on multiple occasions. I refuse to let myself get entangled, ensnared in that way of thinking again. That's not to say that I'm, have cognitive dissonance and will refuse to acknowledge the reality of an impending tragedy or darkness, etc., that is clearly headed right towards us. But I do not believe that humanity is on the brink of total extinction in the immediate future. I do greatly fear climate change, believe that it is realer than real, and it troubles me beyond anything else that I've ever been troubled by. And I feel like the impending doom that severe climate change brings with it has subconsciously affected humanity in a large-scale way for the last 5, if not more, years. And many of us who walk amongst us on these ever more sizzling streets understandably deny and don't think about it because it's just too damn much to try to wrap your brain as an individual around global destruction. Couple that in with the internet and the World Wide Web and satellite TV, etc., the connectiveness that we have, the connectivity of the world at large. We are not built as individuals to process global grief at this point. I don't think we've got a handle on that. Some of us actually can do it. And I think those are the people who are just, wow, these are the people who are evolved. And I think we can train ourselves to get to places like that by tapping into some of this limitless power that we have. And I think that's a component of it, being able to understand, process, and handle and integrate moving forward the awareness of global grief as an individual. When back in the day, just if someone in our small tribe or village would tragically pass away, there'd be an extended period of mourning for all of us. And so now we're, whether it's the most recent wildfires in, Maui and Hawaii, and, the other, the human rights violations that are happening, worldwide, or, human trafficking, etc., the opioid crisis, earthquakes, wildfires, hurricane season is upon us. All of this stuff, it's an avalanche of distress and stress and despair, and our nervous systems are not built to process, right? So that's why we have to seek these we have to seek refuge in that, or from that, and to seek refuge from some of this, climate change specifically. I think many of us have decided to just be like, I'm not thinking about it, and it's not real. And guess what? I'm going to listen to the scientists that are paid by the oil companies and the conservative super PACs to tell me that it's not real, and that's what they do. And out of sight, out of mind. Don't worry, that is the hottest July ever recorded in the history of NASA. Now, that has an effect too on behavior, human behavior, I believe, on a large scale, but at a subconscious level. Coupled with the fact that now disclosure is starting to come out of the faucet a little more than a drip drip. Now you have a breakdown of a traditional worldview by a majority of the people on the planet. You have billions of people now trying to wrap their brain around not being alone in the universe, but for real this time. It's like, we're not alone. Most people have always said that. Well, mathematically and scientifically, it's crazy to think that we'd be alone. But now it just got real. Okay? It just got real. It's been real for a long time, by the way, for people who are into this, because we've been long ago convinced and have understood that credible people have destroyed their lives simply by telling their stories. But now, billions of people are having a shift in thinking. What does that do? I want to talk to Dr. Roger Nelson again in the Global Consciousness Project, because now we're having a shift in global consciousness. And this is not to be underestimated. This is equally exciting and confounding to me. What will the results of billions of people changing their mind, or not even changing their mind, understanding fully and embracing this new reality, this true reality of life, of being with other intelligent life forms, not of Earth? What will that mentality do? And guess what? The movies want to tell us that there's widespread panic. I have a lot of friends who like that band, by the way, and I've heard a couple of their songs and I like them, but I just never gotten into them. Maybe I'm going to listen to some Widespread Panic tomorrow. Anyway, I don't just agree that widespread panic, global pandemonium is going to be the answer just because that's what you've been shown and told. Think about the other side, the understanding, the beauty. I mean, do you get excited? Are you feeling the tingles? I feel tingles when I'm talking about this. Billions of people agreeing that we are not alone means it becomes the worldview and it gets real. A friend at dinner said they think the government is doing all of this disclosure to build us up to a point here in a few years where we actually meet an alien, like at the United Nations, something like that. And I hadn't thought of that. I guess my mind hadn't gotten that far yet with a lot of this stuff. I just thought it would kind of happen spur of the moment potentially. I'm not exactly sure, but what I will say is this. Regardless of how it happens, it's happening. And I know people have been saying this forever and they ended up dying and it never happens in their life. But I do think this is different. I mean, we're having open hearings on the Senate floor about UFOs and whistleblowers talking about how they've seen aliens. This is happening. It's not going to be crazy anymore. It's going to be normal, boring stuff. The paranormal is becoming normal more and more every day. And quite frankly, I love that, right? More and more people are involved. More and more people are interested. There's a million paranormal podcasts out there right now. So I appreciate you for listening to this one. We're coming up on 10 years here in a few months. So I'm very excited about that. I just know that this is a life well spent, exploring the unknown, trying to understand the seemingly understandable, regardless of the words that are used in describing some of these seminal events. In my opinion, seminal events, they could be proven in time to be completely not inconsequential, because of the forthcoming events will be so grand that they will dwarf the importance of some of these events that have happened recently, potentially. But, I got to say this. The idea that, everything changes. And that's been a theme on this show for 9+ years, that there's a fundamental change in the way everything is once this is understood. Once we understand that we're not alone in the universe, and once we understand that death isn't real, then everything changes and we can finally get on with it. I feel like we're going to finally get to it, right? We're finally going to get to the part of being alive that people are going to be alive, 200 years from now, and they're going to look back and be like, can you imagine living back then? It's like it dwarfs pre-electricity, pre-sanitation, pre-farming, all of that stuff. It's going to be like, can you imagine not believing or not knowing that aliens were real that whole time, even though there was all that evidence out there for decades and decades and decades? People lived full, entire, healthy lives. And evidence was there the whole time, and then they died, and people after them still didn't believe or understand. Can you imagine? I can, and I'm going to be long dead in this form. I will be long in the after form when the new world is all systems go. But isn't it great to be at this point in history, to be on the cusp of the Great Awakening, or the Great Understanding, or the Great Introduction, whatever we want to call it. And, people have called it all kinds of things, but it is imminent. And in the grand scale of time, imminent could mean 100 years. It could mean 1 year. I don't really know. To circle back to put some bows on these ideas. These are big ideas. These are big ideas. They're not really big ideas, actually. They're only big ideas if they're ideas that you've never considered, I suppose. And to wrap one's brain around them seem like big ideas in that situation. For us, this is just another Tuesday. The point is this. When it comes to the post-apocalyptic narratives that you have already heard or will be hearing or are hearing now regarding ETs, aliens, UFOs, etc., I try not to lean into them too much. I have had people on this show talking about them, and they're friends of mine. That is their story to tell. My story is to listen and to listen to other people's stories, and to tell my stories when they occur and when the time is right. And I suppose a 30-year bonus is a time like that, since there's no guest on the program. And there's me, man. Oh, is that Todd? Todd hasn't been here. Hey, man, I just want to say, man, it's cool, man. Okay, thanks, Todd. Todd, but I'm getting to a really poignant point here. I'm, trying to stir some emotion potentially. Hey, man, I love emotion, man. It's good, man. Emotion's good. Okay, Todd, I appreciate that. I also love emotion. The point is this. There is no point. There never has been. Whoa, okay. I don't know who that was. That was the Mr. Self-Doubt came in. Mr. SD. So I don't lean into the apocalyptic narratives. Dr. Stephen Greer also has a potential apocalyptic narrative that he has laid out. A potential apocalyptic narrative. And if we don't do A and B, then C will happen. This kind of situation, right? Other people I've talked to have also laid out apocalyptic scenarios. If A and B don't happen, then C will happen. And you usually, all times, never want C to happen. You want D to happen. Because if A and B do happen, then D can happen. As opposed to if A and B don't happen, then C happen. You get it. You understand how these things work. Basically, consequences. You understand how consequences for doing or not doing something works. This is reminiscent of when I was younger in my childhood, being raised in a Catholic family, and prophecy being a big part of Christianity, and being told over and over again about visions and warnings that were given, from the Virgin Mary to some monks over in some obscure place in the Middle East or in Europe or something, right? And the Virgin Mary appearing to someone and saying that if A and B don't happen, then C is going to happen. And guess what? C didn't happen. C never happened. And to be quite honest, I don't think A and B ever happened either, to prevent C from happening. So there have been a lot of cult leaders and false prophets, which I've always loved the term false prophet. And it's just occurring to me now that I've always loved it, because implied in the phrase false prophet is that there are actually true prophets, which I guess is the definition of prophet. But there's been a lot of false prophets and cult leaders who have promised the destruction or the great day of deliverance or the rapture, etc. That has never happened. And at least to the best of our knowledge, it hasn't happened unless we're all living in hell and the rapture already did happen. But let me just ask this one quick just let me ask you this one quick question. If in fact we are in hell and the rapture did happen, then why are Butterfingers so delicious? There shouldn't be something as delicious as a Butterfinger if in fact I'm living in hell right now. Oh, I love it. I haven't had a Butterfinger in so long, and I had one tonight. Can you tell? Obviously you can. The point is, it rings true, or it rings familiar. Not rings true. It rings familiar of, older Christian, second coming of Jesus, end of times, apocalypse, the horsemen, the four horsemen kind of, narratives that I was fed growing up. Some of these apocalyptic narratives even tie in to religion. They tie UFOs into religion, so everything old is new again, I suppose. And they're partnering up, right? One's piggybacking off the other potentially. I don't know, but are they connected potentially? Who knows? Am I the fool on the hill? Potentially, yes, but I don't lean into that, and I am never going to the best of my knowledge currently, as I say this, I am never going to be on this show telling you that the end is here. The end is nigh, and it's happening in a week or something like that. Spreading dread. I don't love to spread dread. I got to remember that phrase. I don't like to spread dread. I like to, I don't like to spread dread or smear fear. I like to, I can't think of anything that rhymes with love other than glove. I like to shove love. That doesn't sound right. I like to, pour some love from my glove. Whatever. You get it. I'm not going to try to be a Rush Limbaugh and scare you into buying one of my t-shirts that I will be selling on Instagram here in the next couple of days, by the way. So make sure you follow me on Instagram at Rice Saying. I got some extra tour shirts that I'm going to sell before I hit the road again, and try to move some product. Anyway, I'm not going to spread dread or smear fear here. So, just keep that in mind. I want you to understand that I think all of us inherently know deep down on a very primal level that there's no way to move forward or upwards without love and understanding and opening ourselves to the unknown. And that means people, that means ideas, and that means potentially ETs, and that definitely means Earth. We don't need to be building a wall around Earth or a bubble around Earth. I mean, can you imagine the conservative politician, using that fear-based messaging to try to get your vote in another 20 years? We need to build a protection bubble around Earth to keep all of these aliens from taking our jobs and, raping our women or whatever they say that immigrants do, which is exactly what they say they do. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to listen to the fear? Are you the message of fear? Or are you going to listen to a message of love? And that is, for the most part, that is what Dr. Stephen Greer is on the side of. From all my years of paying attention and listening to some of the things, a lot of the things he's been doing, making, and saying. Now, I will say this. The fear message will be there, but you can always pick it up. And there's always something attached. There's always a catch to the fear message. And it's because they want something from you. So if you can kind of turn your antenna up and you can turn your receiver up, like, okay, well, what this message is terrifying. What do they want from me? Because if someone's trying to terrify you with a message, 99 times out of 100, it's because they're trying to get something from you. Now, that 1 out of 100 times, your house is on fire, you need to get the hell out of there, wake up, get out of the house. But the other 99 times, it's like, you need to buy this, this fire extinguisher. You need to vote for me because I don't let fires happen, or et cetera, et cetera. I think you get it. So you can kind of see that everywhere. It doesn't, not just in politics. You can kind of see, you see that messaging that has a vibration about it. And we're all aware of that vibration. It changes the energy of a room when it comes through a television or a radio or a TikTok video or something like that. People like who watch the fights, like these public fights that are filmed on phones, and then people make videos about them. People are commenting on them, and people are just sharing these videos of just human on human brutality over and over and over again, and it spreads like wildfire, and it's got an energy, it's got a vibration that fucks my day up. And guess what? I just can't watch it. It especially when it's unexpectedly just right in front of my face. It ruins my day. It changes my mood. It hurts my heart, and I just can't handle it. And the empaths of the world know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's impossible to walk around with a bubble up all day long, on high alert. There's just no way to live for our nervous system. Anyway, so this is good news. The disclosure happening is good news, and quite frankly, I think it should be happening faster, but we're going to take what we can get because, wow, 5 years ago, I didn't think we'd be here, but we are, and I knew we'd be here, I hoped for it, but it's still a little astonishing in many ways, and I didn't think it would be, but make no mistake, the quote-unquote officials and the official people, they were having their hand forced here. To me, it's very clear that they are having their disclosure hand forced, and this information was not something they wanted to be doing, quite frankly, yet. And many of them are going to be fighting tooth and nail not to do it, while others are fighting the good fight. And guess what? The people fighting the good fight are winning. And disclosure is happening. Billions of people will have their mindset changed, which will shift consciousness on a global scale, which opens us up for the next great shift in consciousness, which I believe will be the understanding that our physical death is nothing more than just a blink or a blip on a lifetime's radar. That's where we're headed. And ooh la la, doesn't it sound nice? I am in Lebanon, Tennessee, August 18th. That's a Friday night doing a show at Hot Alien Summer Camp. After that, I will be in Wilmington, North Carolina on September 6th. On 9/6, I will be at the Waterline Brewing Company in Wilmington, North Carolina. And then on the 7th and 8th of North Carolina, I will be in Asheville doing shows. And then on the 9th and 10th, I will be at the Charlotte Comedy Festival in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then on Tuesday, September 19th, the Punchline in San Francisco. And then the 20th and 21st, Sacramento area. And the 22nd, Santa Cruz, California. And ooh, baby, some fun shows coming up. I hope to see you at one of them. And if I don't see you if I don't see you at the road, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane. And by the way, I love you. And I hope you love yourself because, gosh darn it, you deserve it.